This huge issue with society and the way society views men, the way we view masculinity, the way we are trying to approach it, the way it's been attacked unfairly is just an overall disaster. We can all admit to ourselves that in the modern age today, most young men don't have good role models. Let's start off with that. A lot of young boys are lost. They're trying to figure themselves out, what type of man they want to be in the future, which path they need to follow, and all they have to go off with are all of these podcast dudes telling them some of the most, it's not useless, but it's not life fulfilling. It's more like this shiny gold that will entertain them for about a month or two before they'll end up becoming lost once more. Then you also have society that favors heavily towards women, right? You'll have situations where single mothers are oftentimes cheered, which, by the way, being a single mom is a disaster. Let's be honest. There's no scenario where being a single mom is a good thing. No woman wakes up in the morning and goes, I'm going to be a single mom. Let's be honest. However, the same isn't really done so single fathers, to be more precise. Single fathers are oftentimes just completely ignored. They don't exist. The legal system doesn't favor them whatsoever. A good father could lose their child to a horrible mother. And that's just the reality of it. The way we approach masculinity is heavily contested. It's gotten to the point where, I can be honest with you, most men don't even have the field to discuss what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine. You have women coming in and joining the conversation, trying to tell men how to be men, but God forbid we try to do the same and tell a woman how to be a woman. But going back to young boys essentially just being lost. They are completely and utterly lost. So they're ending up gravitating towards some of the most toxic aspect of what it means to be a man. Podcasts like Fresh and Fit, Unrelenting, and other podcasts that I can't think of right now, all are trying to give young boys a solution, a purpose, something to strive towards as they're figuring themselves out. And a lot of the times, it's usually some soulless endeavors, let's be honest. Get money, get cars, get bitches. That's it. It sounds great when you're 16, obviously. I want money so I can feel powerful. I want women so I can feel desired. And I want respect. These are typical stuff, right? But there's no basis behind them. There's no character or a soul, to speak, that will help ground these young boys so they're not just drifting off left and right to the next thing, or at least clinging to an individual that they think will help them figure themselves out. In one of the podcasts that I was watching recently, because I saw Destiny on it, so I wanted to watch it, they were asking questions about what it means to be a man, and one of the person in the podcast was throwing in keywords like honor, valor, loyalty, all of this stuff, right? And they sound nice, let's be honest. Men tend to gravitate towards these words a lot more. The problem is, these are not gender classified characteristics. Women can also have these characteristics as well. And when I listen to his description as to what it means to be honorable, right? What it means to be all of this, these are like warrior characteristics they're talking about. They're trying to gear boys into this mentality of warriors, like this baseline. If boys get together, we end up fighting for leadership. I don't know, it's like a weird thing, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, they're just not good role models for them. That, like, nothing that they're saying is going to help them deal with the core issue that is going on in society. The biggest issue to me personally is purpose. A lot of young men don't have purpose because we as a society evolved rapidly. Like our social structure changed rapidly in the last 50 years that we didn't adjust for the lack of purpose that men tend to have. The other thing is, we don't respect men's emotion at all. Like, for example, women will always be quick to say, I want a man to be emotional. I want him to express his emotion. I want him to cry, all that stuff. The problem is, we haven't set an environment that is conducive to that. Because as soon as a man cries and is opening up about his emotional struggle, let's be honest, the first few people who are quick to judge a man for that is a woman. Let's be real. Most men may end up joking about it, but oftentimes we understand when a man breaks down and starts crying, it has taken a lot for him to do that. Women don't seem to understand that for some reason. Then there's this whole super aggressive attack towards masculinity and referring to every trait that men tend to have that is not really liked by society as toxic. Even though we know toxic femininity exists, in fact, it feels like we are encouraging and rewarding toxic femininity at a disproportionate rate than toxic masculinity. I'm not saying we should be rewarding either one of those, toxic traits. I'm just saying. And because of the attack on toxic masculinity, a lot of boys have perceived that to being they're trying to turn us into sissy boys. So what I'm going to do now is go to the absolute extreme to protect my masculinity, which is why podcasts like Fresh and Fit and Unrelenting and the other ones are succeeding with views. A lot of boys just want to figure out what the fuck they need to be doing, what gives them purpose in life, right? And it goes really right back to what I think men just want. Men just want to feel useful. That's it. They want to feel useful. They want to be able to do stuff that... It's like, you know how boys gravitate towards video games, right? We play a lot of video games. It's one of those masculine traits that we have. One of the biggest reasons for that is that there's a purpose in those games, right? When you start off the game gives you quest, and there's an end goal to strive for it. And I think that's what men want in life. They want to be given a purpose, a goal, a quest, and they want to strive towards that quest and feel like everything that they're doing is leading up to something, and it's fulfilling. And when they get to the end of it, they are rewarded for it. So, which is why boys or young men are quicker to be drafted into war because they view war as this purposeful thing. There's something behind it. I am fighting for the safety of my family, for the honor of my country. If I do well, I'll be remembered in history. It's like a conquest. It's like an epic adventure for them. It has purpose behind it. The other purpose is having a family, right? Starting a family and becoming the, caretaker or the breadwinner, so to speak. Providing for a family is a very fulfilling aspect for a lot of men. If the man obviously knows his position, because not every man can be a good father. You can be a dad, but you can't be a good father. We all know this. It used to be the old days. Now that women are obviously participating in the workforce, they're making money too. So, men have kind of lost that drive in that sense, or they haven't calibrated to the change as quickly as women did, which then feeds into the whole loneliness thing, because as women are making more money, their desires for men goes up, and if men aren't keeping up, well, most of them are left behind essentially. I mean, there are good role models that exist in this world, obviously. It's just that so fine between, and oftentimes the men who do get the attention, they are not the best role models out there. Let's be honest. We can all see it, that they're not really saying or giving young men the best advice possible to deal with the issues that they're facing, such as loneliness, depression, advice on finance, advices on how to talk to women, genuine advices, not these flimsy, quick, hype words advices that ultimately doesn't really help them in the long run. Because I feel like a lot of these boys are now going on this very destructive path. For example, if you look at things like TikTok, the streaming aspects like Twitch and Kick and Rumble and all that stuff, they are gravitating to some of the most destructive, corrosive, toxic aspects that you can possibly think of. There's this African proverb that I think is very, very true in the sense: a child that is abandoned will burn down a village just to fill its want. And I think that's exactly what is happening to a lot of these young boys. They're doing stuff, they're saying horrible stuff, they are taking in ideologies that are very dangerous to their own progress and growth, simply because they just want something. They are missing something. They're empty inside, and they're looking for anything to fill that void. So, what can be done? Like, what is the solution to all this? Because it's only going to get worse, right? We can keep shouting toxic masculinity this, toxic that, all this stuff, but without a genuine care for a solution for how we can adapt to the upcoming age, because the idea of trying to bring back traditional roles, I think it's going to be impossible. In the West, anyways. Women are not going to go to becoming full-time moms anytime soon. The idea of depending financially completely to a man is a thing of the past. It's too risky, and let's be honest, it's not worth the risk. So what's the plan? Because both men and women are going to obviously enter the workforce, earn an income, and for some reason women are just incapable of dating downwards. Let's be honest, it's just the truth. They're not dating downwards, they're consistently dating upwards, and I don't know, it could be genetics at this point. What can men do to adapt to this ever-changing climate where it feels like all the natural things that men used to be able to do to give themselves purpose, a drive for success, all that stuff is being taken away from them, and they're left with these flimsy social dynamics that doesn't really benefit them, or at least contribute to what they want. And if I were to give an advice, if I'm being honest with you, making money is a good start. Becoming a millionaire, I'm sorry, but most of you will not be able to do that. Just making money enough where you can live comfortably is a good, realistic goal. And doing something that you're passionate about is a reasonable goal to have as well. Pursuing something that is not only conducive to your own mental state, but is also allowing you to express yourself as well, I think would be great. Going to the gym. I don't know why society is trying to demonize the idea of going to the gym, or even just exercising and keeping in good shape. That is good. Don't let people tell you otherwise. That is very healthy, and it really is conducive to your overall growth. This next one here is that don't chase women. I know all red pill people are telling you chase women, test drive them, try to see if you can enter into like multiple relationships, cheat, side bitches. They won't help you. It's fun, I suppose, they won't help you. They just won't. It's not fulfilling at the end of the day. I think striving to just find a lifetime partner, just one woman, should be enough for most men. This idea of wanting to try them all out, ridiculous. In fact, I'm gonna be honest with you, this hookup culture that we've entered has been the most destructive in terms of maintaining healthy relationships. It's just absolutely just terrible. We can admit this. I mean, think about it. We've evolved to now enter into a state where we are now judging people based on just their looks alone. And if you don't like them, swipe. Every guy who's ever been on the social media dating app has realized that's just a terrible feeling to have. But yeah. Lastly is to be religious. I know some people don't want to hear this, but if you become religious, dedicate your spiritual aspect to God and stuff like that, It's very fulfilling, and it can help you deal with a lot of stuff that are just somewhat out of your control. That's just my suggestion, really. I know also, just to keep in mind, there are so many people who are using Christianity to justify certain actions, but then you pay attention to their character and they're not really Christians themselves. I have a definition for that, or a word for that. That is Christian with a K. These are the ones who just like the aesthetic of Christianity, but they don't follow the faith whatsoever. Just want to point that out. I don't know what else to say, really. I think if you are a man, right, and you've reached that age where you no longer view yourself as a young boy, but now you've become a fully fledged man, I feel like each of us has a responsibility to kind of keep an eye out on the younger ones coming up and steer them to the right direction. Make sure that, they're not becoming lost. Pay attention to what they're watching, because let's be real, a lot of these red pill channels, if you actually listen to them, they're giving some of the worst advice possible for men. They're creating more destructive men, and they're giving them ideas that will ultimately lead them to more depressive ideas if they don't succeed in it. I mean, if you look at some of these conventions, a lot of them are still single, but they haven't really gotten what they wanted out of it. I'm just saying. Yeah. It doesn't help as well that men have entered into this weird cycle of paying attention to superficial features. Like, I'm not saying if you're an attractive individual, you're going to be on the same level as someone who's not as attractive, but my goodness. Paying attention to negative eye control stuff and all this other stuff, bro. At the end of the day, bro, I'll be honest with you, most women, they don't care as much, if I'm being honest to that. Yes, women will find certain types of men attractive. That's obviously a given. But in the grand scheme of things, on a micro level, bro, it's not that deep. It really is not that deep. I mean, we always say that society doesn't care about men. But society is made up of two genders, men and women, bro. Even if women don't care about men's issue, which is not really true, there are a lot of women who do care about men's issue, there's also the men aspect. Let's be honest, a lot of us don't really care about our own issues in the way that we should. We really don't care. That's just the reality, we just don't care. So we need to start doing that. Because the impact that these podcasts have had in the men's psyche, the young men growing up, it's a lot more severe than I realized. I would see Reddit posts, Twitter posts, videos of women talking about how they've encountered men on a now regular basis, regurgitating the shit that they're seeing in the podcast. And it's the most horrendous shit possible, bro. We need men of character. But if you want them, you gotta lead by example. I don't know what the solution is, but it's the best I got. Find what makes you happy, find what makes you passionate, and go for it. And basically just strive to be the best version that you could possibly be. And my advice would be to take what you hear from these red pill podcast channels and stuff like that. Take everything that they say with a grain of salt. They're not saying this stuff with your best interest. They're taking advantage of the loneliness and pain that you have and monetizing it for themselves. I'm just saying, if it has helped you, I guess cool, but it's not the best conducive thing possible.